All right, buddy. Peace. Welcome to the Started by the Basketball Show. Wherever or have you are listening, we are so grateful to have you here with us. As you guys know, I'm your host, Sean Cottle. And the topic today, guys, is something that I wasn't going to discuss initially. However, I feel like it's pertinent for us to discuss since I've allowed it to digest, allowed myself to digest the topic as a whole. And that's the concept of nepotism. And we're going to be using Bronny James as the backdrop for this topic. And for those of you who don't know, Bronny James, the son of LeBron James, was recently drafted in the second round by the Los Angeles Lakers and played his freshman year at USC, averaged 5 points per game coming off the bench. And during his performance during the summer league, started out the summer league what some would consider below average play, and then over the course of summer league he started to play well, particularly over the last 3 games. And people watching the games, watching Bronny play, would say that he's not an NBA level player at this moment in time. So, I want to break this down first from a basketball perspective, and then I want to go into the nepotism aspect of it. So, particularly from the basketball perspective, the issue that people are having with this storyline, with this scenario, is that they have the wrong lens. They're looking at this from the wrong lens, and people are looking at Bronny James and evaluating his play as if he's a lottery pick, as if he's a first round pick. But that's disingenuous, and that's particularly unfair to Bronny James as a player, because the standard that he has that is being set for him is one that shouldn't be set for him. Going into the draft, no one expected Bronny James to be a lottery type player, and particularly be a first round player. And what happens is now you're looking at Bronny to have that standard, to have that level of play, when he never should have had that standard put upon him. So watching a second round player play in a summer league is different from watching a first round player play in the summer league. And the typical standard that you have for a second round player is not the same for a first round player. However, that is part of the problem that Bronny James is running into, is that his standard is being evaluated as if he's a first round player, and it's solely because of his last name. And I understand, if Bronny's last name was Sutherland instead of James, he wouldn't be having this same level of ridicule and criticism. And to be fair, if his last name was Sutherland instead of James, he probably wouldn't have been drafted in the first place, which is going to lead into the next portion of this conversation. But sticking with this particularly from the basketball perspective, Bronny James is 19 years old, and he played his freshman year at USC, played 1 season of college basketball. The potential, I believe, is there for Bronny James to be a commensurate level NBA player. I'm never going to try to put a cap on a young brother's potential, but I will say he has the potential, like I said, to be a commensurate level player. Can he surpass that? We'll see. But do I see potential in him? Absolutely, I absolutely do. At this point in time, is it there? Is he a commensurate NBA level player right now? I wouldn't say that. But you are in the NBA for a reason, and no one can take that away from you, no matter what your last name is, no matter who you are. And by hook or by crook, you are in the NBA. So the potential is there for Bronny James. However, you have to look at it from the perspective that he's 19 years old. He's a second round pick. He's currently going to be on a 2-way contract, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong about that, one of your brothers can correct me. So he has a lot of potential, but he's He's got room to grow, and he's not at the level where he needs to be, or he's not at the level where a commensurate NBA player should be at. But like I say, he's only 19, and he has a lot of room to grow. And that's the lens we should be looking at this. But however, having that last name of James comes with the territory. You're going to be criticized extensively throughout the course of your career. But I'm well aware that that's something that he's prepared for. I'm sure that his family, his father, has prepared him for that. So we have to be unbiased when evaluating Bronny James. We had to evaluate and compare him to the other second round players, or other players that are drafted in the second round, if we're going to truly evaluate his potential and his level of play. And purely from a basketball perspective, that's sort of the outlook that we should be having when evaluating Bronny. Now, when we get to his last name of James, and we start to leak into the nepotism aspect of everything, it's very interesting to me, once evaluating this this dynamic, how. Now I want to address it from the so-called black community, that as someone who's so-called black, when you see Bronny James be able to get an opportunity like this solely because of his father, there's no mistake that the Lakers drafted him solely because LeBron James had a high level influence on that. And we're staying two-dimensional on this. It's very clear that nepotism played a factor in Bronny being able to get drafted. And it's interesting to me how something that's always talked about in the black community, so-called black community, is nepotism, and how it takes away jobs. It takes away jobs from people who were qualified for it. And obviously when we speak of nepotism, oftentimes we're talking about it from people who are not so-called black. And we talk about how it's taking jobs from so-called black people, the concept of nepotism. But once we see a so-called black person in a position of power to provide jobs for their sons, for their children, we're then quick again to talk about the concept of nepotism and how it's disingenuous and how it takes away jobs. So that concept, that perspective is interesting to me, because you would expect that, as once you see someone that's so-called black be able to provide a position, a job for their son or for their child through nepotism, you would think that you would garner the support of the so-called black community. But that's not the case. And something that I've noticed is that in the so-called black community, sometimes we struggle with giving support and giving admiration to other people in the so-called black community. And I believe where that stems from is, so as so-called black people, we're so talented, we're uberly talented, and we're filled with so much potential just naturally in our spirit, that when we see other people be successful and we see other people have these accolades and success, we don't look at it with admiration. We look at it more in the sense of, oh, okay, well, that's not too important, that's not too cool, I can do the same thing. Because that's what happens with people that are uberly talented and special in regards. They look at someone else doing something successful and impressive, and they say to themselves, oh, okay, well, that's not too impressive, I can do the same thing. And that's something that's pretty pervasive in the black community. And that's why it's difficult, I believe, for collectively for some people in the black community to give respect and to give admiration. to other people in the black community that are being successful. And I believe that's where this ire is being drawn from Bronny James and LeBron James, is because, once again, that concept of, okay, as a collectively, so many people in the black community are so uberly talented, and we see something like this, we don't say, oh, that's impressive, that's amazing to see, to see this happening. Instead, it's rather a lot more ire, a lot more criticism, a lot more critiquing. But like I said, it's because that concept, like, so many people in the black community were just naturally uberly talented, and that's where that stems from. And I believe that's part of the issue. I believe this entire concept, this entire narrative with Bronny James and nepotism is more reflective of something much bigger, that's much more pervasive, that's going on in the black community. And that's that, like I said, it's that issue of being able to lend genuine support for other so-called black people, especially when they're in positions of power. And now, and that's also part of the issue, that we struggle trusting each other as well. But that goes back to us not having a true culture. And the only way we can truly get a true culture is we all turn back to the, collectively as a whole, turn back to the Most High. But that's another storyline. That's another topic for another day. I don't want to talk about that too much on this video, but that is where a lot of the criticism that Bronny James is getting, that's where that stems from what's going on in the black community. And really, I just wanted to touch on that subject a little bit. But that's where Bronny James is at least a narrative, at least from my perspective, is, listen, he's a second round player. I believe he has potential to be a commensurate player in the NBA. I'm not gonna put a cap on his potential. I will never do that to a young brother. But it's not fair to evaluate him as a first round, to evaluate him at the standard of a first round player. But to whom much is given, much is required. With the last name of James, you're going to have that stigma. You're going to have that constant criticism moving forward throughout his career. And with the nepotism, from a basketball perspective, I don't, you guys know how I feel about LeBron James, or what I think about LeBron James, and where he ranks among the all-time greats in his style of play, and is it truly conducive to winning basketball. Despite all of that, I believe it's impressive and it's amazing that he was able to use his position of power to get his son a job in the NBA. And not to get too much off on the tangent, but another thing that this storyline reveals about the black community is that we're too focused on things that aren't conducive, that aren't truly impacting the black community. And we're talking about nepotism in a sports league, right? But when really we should be talking about nepotism in other fields of work, i.e., like in the political landscape, in the political field, in the finance market, in the business market, even in the law enforcement field, the law enforcement department, in other more impactful fields of work on the black community, so-called black community, as opposed to just the sports field. And that just draws attention to us in the so-called black community, putting so much impact and so much light on people in the entertainment industry, and how, as a so-called black community, we're the only community that looks to people in the entertainment industry, i.e., sports and music and dance, and like in that sort of realm. We're the only people that look for people that work in those fields to be leaders of the black community. We're the only community that does that. And once again, it just sets light on us not truly having a culture. Malcolm X spoke on that quite a bit, and other people in the past have talked about this concept as well, that we have to stop looking for people in the entertainment industry, the entertainment world, to be leaders for the so-called black community. And once again, this is also something that this storyline sort of reveals about the black community. But I believe this concept of nepotism is something that is pervasive, but it's something that it reveals something to us about the where we are at as a collective. But yeah, and like our host Dre just said, oh, by the way, I need to talk to my brother Dre, because he just sent me something really beautiful in the mail, but I'll save that for the conversation. But yeah, like Dre said, he said he doesn't like it when people say things about being entertainers as our leader in the black community. I agree with you, Dre, and that's something that we talk about on our podcast all the time. But it's important for us to be supportive of each other in the black community. But like I said, I understand why it's difficult for us, because a lot of us are really talented, and that's where that stems from. But let me know what you guys think on this topic. Let me know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the chat room, and I would love to hear all about it. But guys, with that being said, that is it for our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a wonderful show. We'll be back again same time tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, continue to stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions, and peace.